Welcome to this video looking at DIY taping techniques for the wrist. This taping technique is perfect for those joint sprains, particularly those ones which are aggravated by extension-based movements or when you've got soreness over the front or the side of your wrist joint. Ideally, you'll have three types of tape. Firstly, some retention tape. It's optional, but it does help the tape adhere to the skin. Secondly, brown zinc oxide. This is the strong structural tape that helps give support to the joint. And lastly, elastic adhesive bandage. Okay, we're going to start with the adhesive tape, and this is going to go down at the base of the wrist. We're going to call this the first anchor point. So we go ahead and strap that on the palmar side of your wrist, and then just gently press it down. Then we're going to place our second anchor point just below the four knuckles of the fingers. So we splay out the fingers just to make sure that we're not causing any restrictions there, and place the adhesive tape just below the knuckles. This tape is great to protect those sensitive areas of skin that you might have in the area, rather than putting the brown zinc oxide directly onto those parts of the hand and the wrist. We can then go ahead and rip off your zinc oxide tape and apply that over the anchor points. Now that we've got our solid anchors fixed, we can then look at applying the structural brown zinc oxide tape over the top of the sprained area of the joint. So we're aiming to put an X shape of tape. So start with an X, and then we're going to repeat that 2 or 3 times depending on how much support you want across the wrist joint. It's really important with taping that we allow as much of the wanted movement as possible and restrict the unwanted movement. So you want to take your wrist to that sore point. So take it into extension until you feel some of that soreness, and then back off 20 or 30 degrees. And that's the position that you want to tape your hand in. And now we're applying the zinc oxide tape in strips in an X shape across the wrist joint. So place one, cover a third of that previous strip, and then place the one just next to that. Work your way across the hand and the wrist until you've given yourself as much stability as you feel you need. Usually somewhere between 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 strips is plenty. Alright, once those strips have been placed down, we can go ahead and test into that painful range. So if it was torn in extension, we're going to repeat that movement slightly into extension and check we're not getting that soreness. Once you feel you have enough support, we're going to go ahead and place these rigid strips over the top of the original anchors to lock the tape in place. Now once you've applied those final anchors, give your hand some movement and check how it feels. Many people find this rigid, strong zinc oxide tape is plenty for your sport or activity. But others might find that you want a little bit more stability, or you want to make sure that the tape doesn't come off during your activity, particularly in contact sports. Then I'd recommend using elastic adhesive bandage. So with the EAB, we start down at the wrist joint and then work your way up the hand. So the aim of the tape is to cover the zinc oxide tape over the top and also give some extra stability. So we're working in a similar X shape, back down the hand, over the front of that wrist joint, and then we can just repeat that a couple of times. So we're working the EAB back down to the wrist, and then we can finish off just about where we started. Rip that tape, and then we can lock off the end of the EAB with a little bit of zinc oxide to finish. The tape should feel as firm as you can comfortably tolerate and not too tight that you're restricting any blood flow. Final checks and you're all done.